Hey, before you skip this, before you think you already know what this is about, I want you to stop for just 1 second and ask yourself something honest. When was the last time someone walked into a room and you felt it? You did not know exactly why. They did not say anything special. They were not the loudest person there. They were not dressed in a way that screamed for attention. But something about them pulled every eye in the room. Something about them made you think, there is something different about that person. I want to talk about that something, because that something is not magic. It is not luck. It is not something you were born with. It is a set of very specific habits, very deliberate choices, very quiet behaviors that create an almost invisible kind of power. And today, in this audiobook, we're going to break all of it down together. Stay with me. This one is going to change the way you see yourself and every room you walk into. My name does not matter. What matters is what you are about to learn. This is not a self-help lecture. This is not a list of tips you will forget by tomorrow morning. This is a real, honest, detailed conversation about what it actually means to be attractive. Not in the shallow sense, not in the superficial sense, but in the deep, quiet, socially magnetic sense that makes people remember you long after you have left. We're talking about the kind of person people trust before they even know why. The kind of person people gravitate toward at parties without even realizing they're doing it. The kind of person who does not need to chase anyone because everyone is already paying attention. That person can be you. And it starts right now. Chapter 1. The Silent Language of Presence. Let us start with something that most people completely overlook. Your body is talking all the time, even when your mouth is completely shut. The way you stand, the way you sit, the way you hold your hands, the direction your feet are pointed, all of it is sending a message to every person around you before a single word is exchanged. And here is the truth that nobody really wants to hear. Most people are sending terrible messages without even knowing it. Slouched shoulders say, I am not sure I belong here. Eyes constantly darting around the room say, I am nervous and I need approval. Arms crossed tightly say, do not come close to me. Fidgeting with your phone, the moment there is a pause in conversation, says, I am uncomfortable with silence and with myself. Now let us talk about what silent attractiveness looks like in the body. It starts with posture, and I do not mean military posture. I do not mean rigid and stiff. I mean a kind of relaxed, grounded, open posture that says I am comfortable in my own skin and I am not afraid of this space. Shoulders gently pulled back, chest slightly open, head level, not tilted down toward the floor like you're apologizing for existing. When you walk into a room with this kind of posture, something in the brains of everyone around you shifts. They read you as confident before you have done a single thing to prove it. And confidence, real quiet confidence, is one of the most universally attractive qualities in any human being on earth. Then there is stillness. This is huge and almost nobody talks about it. Attractive people are still. Not frozen, not robotic, but still in the sense that they are not constantly moving, shifting, adjusting, touching their face, brushing their hair, tapping their foot, looking around nervously. Stillness communicates that you are present, that you are secure, that you do not need to perform anxiety to prove you are alive. The next time you are in a social situation, try this. Just slow everything down. Move a little slower. Speak a little slower. Breathe a little deeper. You will be amazed how differently people start to respond to you. And then there is eye contact, the single most powerful nonverbal tool in the human social toolkit. There is a massive difference between eye contact that makes someone feel seen and eye contact that makes someone feel stared at. The attractive kind of eye contact is warm, steady, and human. It says, I am here, I am listening, you have my full attention. It does not waver the moment the conversation gets slightly uncomfortable. It does not drop to the floor every time you say something you're not 100% sure about. When you look someone in the eyes with genuine warmth and genuine steadiness, you create a sense of connection that almost nothing else can replicate. People feel valued by you without understanding why. And people are always attracted to those who make them feel valued. Chapter 2. The Power of Speaking Less. Here is something that took most of the world's most magnetic people years to figure out. Talking less makes you more interesting. Not less interesting. More. And I know that sounds counterintuitive. We live in a world that rewards loud, fast, constant talking. Social media has trained us to fill every silence. Conversations have become competitions for airtime. People interrupt each other, they talk over each other, they rush to fill any pause because silence feels awkward and emptiness feels like weakness. But here is what actually happens when you become someone who speaks less and listens more. You become rare. You become the only person in most social settings who is actually giving the other person their full attention. And full attention, genuine full attention, is one of the greatest gifts you can give another human being. Think about the people in your own life who you genuinely love talking to. The people who make you feel like you are the most interesting person in the world when you are with them. I am willing to bet that those people are not the ones who dominate every conversation. They're the ones who ask you real questions. The ones who actually wait for your answer instead of preparing their next sentence while you are still talking. The ones who remember what you said 3 weeks ago and bring it up in a natural, warm way that makes you feel like you matter. That is the magic of being a great listener. And great listeners are magnetically, silently attractive in a way that loud talkers almost never are. Now, speaking less also means choosing your words more carefully when you do speak. When you are not filling every pause with noise, when you are comfortable with silence, when you take your time before responding, the words that do come out of your mouth carry weight. People lean in. People actually hear you. You become the person in the room whose opinion everyone is curious about because you do not give it away for free every 30 seconds. There's a kind of quiet authority that comes from measured speech. It says, I have thought about this. I'm not just reacting. I have something real to offer. And people are drawn to that every single time. There is also the matter of not oversharing. This is something a lot of people struggle with because oversharing feels like openness. It feels like connection. It feels like you're being real and authentic. But there is a difference between being open and being emotionally overwhelming. When you share every thought, every feeling, every insecurity, every complaint in the first few conversations, you leave no mystery. And mystery, the sense that there is more to discover about you, is one of the key ingredients of attraction. You want people to feel like they have scratched the surface and found something interesting, and that there is still so much more underneath. Let people earn your depth. Do not hand it to everyone for free in the first 5 minutes. Chapter 3. The Habit of Genuine Curiosity. If I had to pick one single habit that separates the most magnetically attractive people from everyone else, it would be this. They are genuinely, deeply curious about other people. Not pretend curious, not politely nodding while thinking about themselves curious, but actually sincerely interested in the human being sitting across from them. And this kind of genuine curiosity is so rare in today's world that when people experience it, they almost do not know what to do with it. They feel seen in a way they have not felt in a long time. They feel interesting in a way that makes them want to come back to you again and again. Here is how you practice genuine curiosity. First, you go deeper. When someone tells you something about themselves, you do not just nod and pivot back to yourself. You ask a real follow-up question. If they say they just got back from a trip, you do not say, oh nice, I went to Barcelona once. You say, what was the best moment of the trip? Or what surprised you most about being there? You go one level deeper than the surface information they offered you. And in doing so, you signal that you actually heard them and that you actually care. That signal is incredibly powerful. People feel it instantly, even if they cannot name it. Second, you listen to understand rather than to respond. This is the whole game right here. Most people, while someone else is talking, are essentially waiting for their turn to speak. Their brain is busy preparing what they're going to say next, what story they have that connects to this, what opinion they want to offer. When you shift into truly listening to understand, to actually absorb and process what the other person is telling you, your entire energy changes. Your face changes. Your body changes. People can feel when they are being truly heard. It is one of the most nourishing experiences a human being can have in conversation. Be the person who gives that to others, and you will become unforgettable. Third, remember the details. This is simple, but absolutely devastating in the best possible way. When you remember what someone told you last week, their sister's name, the job interview they were nervous about, the project they were working on, and you bring it up naturally in conversation, it does completely disproportionate work. It says to that person, "You are on my mind. You mattered enough for me to hold space for you in my memory." Very few people do this consistently. Those who do create bonds of trust and affection that run incredibly deep. Start keeping mental notes. Start actually caring enough to remember. Watch what happens. Chapter 4. Emotional Control as Silent Power. Here is a truth that nobody really likes to hear, but everyone needs to. The most emotionally reactive person in a room is almost never the most attractive person in the room. Emotional reactivity, snapping at small things, getting visibly flustered when plans change, getting defensive when someone disagrees with you, complaining loudly and often. These are signals that tell everyone around you that you're not fully in control of yourself. And people, whether they admit it or not, are always watching to see how stable you are. Because stability is safety, and we are all drawn toward people who feel safe. Now let me be absolutely clear. Emotional control does not mean emotional suppression. It does not mean walking around like a robot with no feelings. It means that your internal emotional world is rich and deep and human, but your external presentation is measured, calm, and thoughtful. It means you have developed a gap between stimulus and response. That small but crucially important space where you get to choose how you react instead of just automatically reacting. People who have this quality seem almost unshakable. They can receive criticism without crumbling. They can handle conflict without escalating. They can sit with discomfort without needing to immediately escape it. And that unshakable quality is magnetic. Think about how you feel when you are around someone who never seems to panic. When chaos breaks out and this person simply pauses, thinks, and calmly offers a solution. When someone says something rude and instead of firing back, this person just looks at them steadily and responds with quiet dignity. When everything goes wrong and this person manages to find a kind of grounded humor in it, that person becomes your anchor. That person becomes someone you want close when things get hard. Being that person for others is one of the most powerfully attractive things you can cultivate in yourself. How do you build emotional control? Slowly, through practice, through noticing your own reactions and asking yourself honestly whether this reaction is serving me right now. Through developing a meditation or mindfulness practice that trains you to observe your emotions rather than be swept away by them. Through deliberately putting yourself in situations that are slightly uncomfortable and practicing staying calm. Through journaling, through therapy if needed, through honest self-reflection. None of this happens overnight. But every step you take in this direction makes you more attractive, more trustworthy, and more genuinely powerful in every room you enter. Chapter 5. How you dress when nobody is watching. Let's talk about appearance, because this chapter would not be complete without it. But I want to approach it differently than you might expect. I'm not going to tell you to follow trends. I'm not going to give you a shopping list. I'm going to tell you something much more valuable. How you dress when you do not think it matters tells the world everything about how you feel about yourself. The person who shows up to a casual errand looking put together, not overdressed, not fancy, just clean, intentional, like they cared enough to think about it. That person is broadcasting something. They are broadcasting self-respect. And self-respect is deeply, quietly attractive. The concept here is called personal standard. It means you have a baseline below which you simply do not drop, regardless of who is watching or where you're going. Your clothes are clean. They fit your body. They reflect some sense of who you are and what you care about. Your grooming is consistent. Your hygiene is not an afterthought. These things sound basic, but you would be genuinely shocked by how many people only apply them when they think they need to impress someone. The truth is, when you apply them all the time, when looking presentable is just what you do because it is who you are, you stop performing attractiveness and you start embodying it. And there's an enormous difference between those two things. There is also something powerful that happens when your external presentation is aligned with your internal identity. When you dress in a way that feels authentically like you, not like you're trying to look like someone else, not like you are wearing a costume. You carry yourself differently. You do not pull at your clothes. You do not seem uncomfortable. You move through the world like you belong in your own skin, and that comfort is visible. That ease is magnetic. The goal is not to look like everyone else, or to look expensive, or to look like you stepped out of a magazine. The goal is to look like the most intentional, put-together version of yourself. That is entirely achievable for every single person listening to this right now. Chapter 6. The Quiet Confidence of Knowing Your Values. Here is something the most magnetically attractive people have in common that goes much deeper than any physical quality or social skill. They know what they stand for. They have a clear sense of their own values, the things they believe in, the lines they will not cross, the kind of person they are committed to being, and that clarity creates an almost gravitational pull. You can feel it when you're around someone who is genuinely rooted in themselves. There is no anxious scanning of the room to see if people approve. There is no shape-shifting to fit whatever the current social atmosphere demands. There's just a settled, quiet, deeply human sense of this is who I am, and I'm not negotiating it. Think about the people you have met in life who you would describe as deeply confident. Not arrogant, not flashy, genuinely, quietly confident. Almost all of them have this quality of rootedness. They have done enough inner work to know what they believe in, and that knowing gives them a kind of freedom that other people could sense. They do not need constant validation because they're already validated from within. They do not take criticism personally because they know who they are well enough to know whether the criticism is accurate or not. They do not change their opinions based on whoever happens to be in the room, because their opinions are actually theirs. They come from real thought, real experience, real conviction. How do you build this? Start by getting honest with yourself about what you actually value. Not what you think you should value, not what your parents told you to value, not what social media says is important. What do you, in your quiet, honest moments, actually care about? What kind of person do you genuinely want to be? What lines will you not cross, even when it's costly? Write these things down. Think about them. Live in alignment with them as consistently as you can. Every time you act in a way that honors your values, you build a little more of that inner foundation. Over time, that foundation becomes visible to everyone around you, even if they cannot articulate exactly what they're sensing. They just know that there's something solid about you, something real, something worth paying attention to. Chapter 7. The Art of Making People Feel Good. This chapter might be the most practically powerful one in this entire audiobook, so I want you to really settle into it. One of the most consistently attractive habits you can develop is the habit of making the people around you feel genuinely good about themselves. Not through flattery, not through hollow compliments that mean nothing. Through real, specific, earned acknowledgement. Through noticing things that other people overlook. Through treating people, all people, not just the ones you want something from, with consistent warmth, dignity, and respect. Here is a simple practice that will transform your social life faster than almost anything else. Start noticing the specific qualities in people that you genuinely admire, and then tell them. Not in a gushing, over-the-top way. In a quiet, direct, sincere way. The way you handled that conversation was really impressive. I noticed the way you made sure everyone at that table felt included. That says a lot about who you are. You have this ability to explain complicated things in a way that makes everyone feel smart, and I really appreciate that about you. These are not generic compliments. They're observations, and specific, genuine observations make people feel truly seen in a way that lights something up inside them. There's also the matter of how you treat people who cannot do anything for you. The waiter, the person answering the phone at customer service, the janitor at the office, the intern on the first day. How you treat people when there is absolutely nothing in it for you is the clearest possible signal of your character. And people notice. They might not say anything. They might not even consciously register it in the moment, but it gets filed away somewhere in their assessment of you. The person who is charming to the boss but dismissive to the assistant is never as attractive as they think they are. The person who treats everyone with the same basic warmth and respect has something that no amount of charm school can teach. They have genuine character, and genuine character is one of the most enduringly attractive things a human being can possess. Also, stop complaining so much. I know that sounds blunt, but chronic complaining about the weather, about traffic, about work, about other people, about your life, is one of the fastest ways to drain your social attractiveness. It signals that you're someone who looks at the world and focuses on what is wrong with it. And while everyone has bad days, everyone has legitimate frustrations. The person who can consistently find something to appreciate, something to laugh about, something to engage with positively, that person is a pleasure to be around. That person makes other people feel better just by being in the same room. That is the goal. Be an energy that people are glad exists. Chapter 8. Boundaries and the attractive energy of self-respect. There's a myth that says if you want people to like you, you need to be agreeable. You need to say yes. You need to be flexible and accommodating and never make anyone feel uncomfortable by saying no. And I want to dismantle this myth completely because it is one of the most damaging social beliefs that exists. The truth is exactly the opposite. People who cannot say no, who agree with everything, who never push back, who bend themselves into whatever shape the room seems to require, are not more attractive. They are less, because they come across as having no center, no spine, nothing solid underneath. And we cannot trust someone who has no center. We cannot respect someone who has no spine. Boundaries are not walls. Boundaries are not hostility. Boundaries are the quiet, dignified way that you communicate to the world. I know who I am. I know what I will and will not accept, and I respect myself enough to maintain that clarity. When you decline an invitation you genuinely do not want to attend, without a long, apologetic explanation, that is a boundary. When someone treats you with disrespect and you address it calmly rather than pretending it did not happen, that is a boundary. When you're honest about your opinion, even in a room full of people who disagree with you, that too is a kind of boundary, the boundary of your own intellectual integrity. These things create respect, and respect is the foundation of all genuine attraction. Here is the counterintuitive thing about saying no. It actually makes your yes mean more. When people know that you do not just agree with everything, when they know that your approval is not automatic and your time is not infinitely available, your agreement becomes valuable. Your presence at an event becomes something worth noting. Your positive opinion of someone becomes a genuine compliment rather than noise. Cultivating this selectivity, this willingness to maintain standards even at the cost of temporary approval, is one of the deepest forms of self-respect there is. And the world responds to self-respect with something that looks a whole lot like admiration. Chapter 9. The power of slow and deliberate action. We live in a world that is addicted to speed. Fast replies, instant decisions, immediate reactions, constant availability. And in this world, the person who moves slowly and deliberately stands out like a lighthouse in a storm. When you slow down, your walking pace, your speech, your decision-making, your responses to messages, your physical gestures, you communicate something that speed never can. That you are not anxious, that you're not desperate, that you are not chasing anything or anyone, that you have enough security in yourself to take your time. Watch how slowly the most magnetic people in any room tend to move. They do not rush across the space. They do not finish other people's sentences in their impatience to talk. They do not immediately respond to every notification the moment it arrives. They take their time, and that taking of time says everything. It says I am grounded. It says I am present. It says I am operating from a place of internal abundance rather than scarcity. And scarcity thinking, the constant rushing, the constant reaching, the constant fear that if you slow down you will miss something, is one of the most unattractive energies a person can carry. This slow deliberateness also applies to how quickly you try to impress people. One of the fastest ways to become less attractive to someone is to try too hard to become more attractive to them. When people can sense that your primary goal in an interaction is to get them to like you, something natural and curious in them pulls back. Because pursuit energy, even subtle pursuit energy, creates a dynamic where one person is doing the chasing and the other person is the one being chased. And the one being chased has all the power all the value, all the attraction. So stop chasing. Start being. Be interesting to yourself. Be engaged with your own life. Be so fully occupied with your own growth, your own projects, your own curiosity, and let people be drawn to that. Because they will be. Chapter 10. Self-improvement as a continuous practice. Everything we have talked about in this audiobook, the posture, the listening, the emotional control, the values, the boundaries, the deliberate slowness, none of it is a destination. None of it is a box you check once and forget about. All of it is a practice. And the people who are most consistently, durably attractive to others are not the people who figured everything out. They're the people who are always working on themselves. Not obsessively, not anxiously, but with a genuine commitment to becoming a little better, a little wiser, a little more fully themselves with each passing year. Read books, not just audiobooks like this one. Read widely. Read philosophy, psychology, history, fiction, biography. Read things that challenge you. Read things that introduce you to minds and experiences completely different from your own. The person who reads becomes interesting in a way that is almost impossible to fake. They develop opinions. They develop perspective. They develop the ability to draw unexpected connections between ideas. They become someone who genuinely has something to offer in conversations beyond the latest news cycle. And that depth, that sense that there's always something more to discover in this person, is intoxicating. Take care of your body, not for vanity, not to look a certain way for other people, but because your physical health is the foundation of everything else. When you sleep well, when you exercise consistently, when you eat in a way that actually fuels you, you show up to the world with more energy, more clarity, more patience, more presence. You're less reactive, more resilient, more capable of the kind of sustained positive engagement that makes you genuinely pleasant to be around. Your body is the vehicle through which all of your attractiveness is expressed. Maintain it with the same care you would give to anything you genuinely value. Develop skills. Become genuinely good at something. Whether it is a musical instrument or a sport or a craft or a professional skill or a creative pursuit, the process of mastery, of putting in the work and getting better over time, does something powerful to your sense of self. It builds a kind of confidence that is completely different from the fragile confidence that comes from wanting people to approve of you. Confidence comes from knowing that you have done hard things, that you have built something real, that you have a capability that you earned. That confidence shows. It radiates, and it attracts. Chapter 11. The Digital World and Silent Attraction. We cannot have this conversation without talking about how all of this plays out online. Because the truth is, silent attraction exists in the digital space just as powerfully as it does in person. It just looks a little different. And most people are completely sabotaging their social attractiveness online without even realizing it. Here's how. They post for validation. Every photo is calculated to maximize likes. Every caption is engineered to seem effortlessly cool. Every story is designed to make other people feel like they are witnessing something enviable. And this is visible. People can feel it. The desperation for engagement leaks through even the most carefully curated feed. The silently attractive person online behaves very much like the silently attractive person in real life. They share what is genuinely meaningful to them without obsessing over the response. They do not post every hour. They do not comment on everything with the urgency of someone who needs to be seen. Their digital presence has the same quality of their in-person presence: grounded, warm, selective, real. When they do share something, it has weight because it comes from a place of actual expression rather than performance. You can almost feel the difference between someone who is posting because they want to share something and someone who is posting because they need people to respond. Also, how you engage with others online matters enormously. The way you comment, the way you respond to messages, the way you handle disagreements in digital spaces, all of this is watched. All of this feeds into the overall impression you make. The person who can disagree respectfully online, who does not need to win every argument in the comments, who responds to criticism with curiosity rather than defensiveness, that person stands out. In a space filled with hostility and performative outrage, genuine civility and thoughtfulness are extraordinarily rare and extraordinarily attractive. Chapter 12. The Compound Effect of Attractive Habits. Here is the thing about everything we have discussed today. None of it works in isolation. None of it is a magic bullet. The real power, the kind that makes you one of those people who walks into a room and quietly changes the energy, comes from the compound effect of all of these habits working together over time. The posture plus the listening plus the emotional control plus the genuine curiosity plus the values plus the self-care plus the boundaries plus the deliberate slowness. When all of these things are working in harmony, they create something that is much larger than the sum of their parts. They create a version of you that is genuinely, unmistakably, quietly powerful. And the compound effect works this way. Each habit you build makes the next one easier. When you start sleeping better, you have more patience, which makes your emotional control easier. When your emotional control improves, you are more present in conversations, which makes your listening better. When your listening improves, people share more with you, which deepens your curiosity and your connection. When your connections deepen, your sense of belonging and security grows, which makes your confidence more genuine. Every positive change you make creates a ripple that touches every other area. This is why starting matters so much. You do not need to change everything at once. You need to pick one thing and start. The rest follows. Think about where you will be 1 year from now if you start practicing these habits today. Not perfectly, nobody does anything perfectly, but consistently, with genuine intention and honest effort. A year from now, you could be the person in your social world who everyone gravitates toward without knowing why. The person people call when something important is happening. The person who makes every room slightly better just by being in it. The person who attracts opportunities and relationships and experiences that feel almost like magic, but that are actually the completely logical result of the kind of person you have become. That future is available to you. It is available to every single person listening to this right now. The only question is whether you will choose it. We have covered a lot of ground together today. We talked about the silent language of your body and how to make it speak confidence before you say a word. We talked about the power of speaking less and listening more, of choosing your words carefully and creating genuine mystery. We talked about the habit of genuine curiosity, of going deeper, of remembering the details that make people feel truly seen. We talked about emotional control as a form of quiet power, the ability to hold your center when everything around you is turbulent. We talked about personal standards, about dressing like someone who respects themselves even when no one is watching. We talked about values, about knowing what you stand for and carrying that knowing like a quiet inner compass. We talked about the art of making people feel good, not through manipulation, but through genuine warmth, specific acknowledgement, and the radical consistency of treating every human being with dignity. We talked about boundaries as a form of self-respect and how saying no can make your yes infinitely more valuable. We talked about the power of slow, deliberate action, of moving through the world like someone who has nowhere to rush to, nothing to prove. We talked about self-improvement as a practice, not a destination, and how the commitment to becoming better every day creates a depth and richness that is irresistible to those around you. And we talked about bringing all of this into the digital world because who you are online is increasingly inseparable from who you are. Now here's what I want you to do. I want you to pick just one thing from everything you heard today. Just one habit, one practice, one shift in how you carry yourself or how you show up. Start there. Do it today. Do it tomorrow. Do it next week. Let it become part of you before you add the next thing. Do not try to overhaul your entire personality in a weekend. Trust the compound effect. Trust the process. Trust that the version of you who practices these things consistently, quietly, persistently over time is going to look up one day and realize that something has fundamentally changed. Not just about how other people see you, but about how you see yourself. And that shift, that internal shift, that growing sense of I know who I am and I like who I am, That is the real foundation of everything we talked about today. Silent attraction is not a trick. It is not a performance. It is the natural result of becoming someone worth being around. And you, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you have been through, you have everything you need to become that person. It starts with a decision. It grows through daily practice. It becomes real through time and consistency. I believe that completely, and I believe in you. Thank you so much for listening all the way to the end. If this audiobook gave you something, even one idea, one shift in perspective, one habit you're going to try, then it did exactly what it was meant to do. Knowledge only becomes power when it is acted upon. So please take one thing from today and put it into practice. That is all it takes to begin. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please hit the subscribe button right now so you never miss a new release from BITESIZEBOOK. We publish audiobooks exactly like this one. Practical, human, deeply researched on topics that actually matter to your real life. Hit like on this video to let us know this kind of content is valuable to you, because it genuinely helps us know what to create more of. And leave a comment below. Tell us which habit you're going to start with, or share something from this audiobook that hit you differently. We read every single comment, and your words genuinely shape what we make next. Share this audiobook with someone who needs to hear it. Not because we are asking you to do us a favor, but because if someone in your life is struggling with how they show up in the world, with their confidence, with their social life, with how they feel about themselves, this might be exactly the thing they need right now. Send it to them. That is a real act of care.